what it is that we want to achieve? Are we doing what we're supposed to be doing and just not expending too much on other people? So I had to make decisions, and one of them was to separate myself from a toxic relationship that I had been in for almost 20 years.
Wow.
And at that same time that I was dealing with cancer, I also realized that I had to come from under the abuse that I was experiencing in my marriage, that I didn't even realize was abuse until a police officer that came to my home for a situation handed me a card for a domestic violence center and said, you should call them, you need help.
Wow.
So I learned from that experience, because cancer or any illness, whatever it is that a woman or person may be experiencing, usually it's not just that thing. If it's fibromyalgia or whatnot, constant pain or aches in the body, that's the body talking to you and letting you know that something is not right, something is going on.
Right.
Maybe we're ignoring our spirit, or we're ignoring our soul. Or again, a lot of times people are under emotional or abusive situations or relationships. So the big decision led me to a lot of micro decisions, and to create standards for my life and learn to make sure that anyone that I was surrounding myself with, that they were healthy additions that were adding to my life. Any work that I was doing from that point on, I decided that my work was going to contribute to the betterment of society. So it was just a trickling effect. It also determine the way that I was going to raise my daughters, making sure that they felt a strong sense of self-respect, a strong sense of self-confidence, but also self-worthiness.
Yeah.
I had always lived in a dual life. When I look back, how did I end up in an abusive relationship? I realized I had strong self-confidence, but I had very low self-worth.
Wow.
My professional endeavors are really get to a point of self-actualization, or where I had the potential to be, until I built up my self-worth, so that I was in better circles and better relationships and better experiences in the life. So I continuously set standards for my life and my work and any relationships that I would allow myself to be in going forward, so that I can continue to build myself as a human being and be better, so that I can contribute more.
Wow. Yeah, and like I know you firsthand that you are a serving heart. So for you, well, one, I want to edify you for the great self-awareness, because it takes a lot to say, like, I have self-confidence, but I don't have self-worth. Like, that takes a lot to say. But I know that you are a serving heart, and I mean, I didn't know you back then, but the person that you've become, and that worthiness and that confidence that you have, I mean, everything happens for a reason. So I'm grateful that you were able to see that and grow in that, honestly. So that's amazing.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, I learned a lot. Your standards, we either have them, we're aware of them, or we're not aware of them, but everyone has them.
Right.
So, standards could be what you do with your money. I don't overspend, something like that. I take care of myself and my money, because money is an energy. So I take care of myself. I live within my means, or, I donate a certain amount every month. So we have the standards, whether we're aware or not. The standards can also be, I don't overextend my energy. I know when to say no when my schedule's full and my body doesn't feel good.
Right.
So those are standards that we can make. Decisions, I get plenty of rest at night, I'm in bed at this time, so the standards and the decisions are all things that I feel every woman or individual should have in place, so that they can reach their potentiality.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. For someone listening right now, what are some ways that you can create those standards for yourself? Maybe like someone, like you said, we all have standards, but how can we become consciously aware of what those standards are?
Well, for me, I think it takes to be brutally honest with yourself. How is it that you feel about yourself every day? And usually whatever is that nagging message or that nagging voice in your head, that negative self-talk, whatever it is, that's usually an indicator of what it is that is, it's an opportunity for growth.
Mm-hmm.
That's where we need to set a standard. So for example, if we're always running late, or we're always rushing, we're always behind, and that's causing us to have negative relations with others that we're meeting, or with your boss or with your clients, standard for yourself can be, I get up 30 minutes earlier every morning, or I lay my clothes. It can be as simple as I plan my outfit and my clothes and everything so I can get out the door the night before.
Right.
So it's whatever it is. If it's negative self-talk and it's causing you to have horrible relations with your partner, your significant other, with your family members, your children, it can be as simple as making that decision to go and seek therapy, someone that you can trust. And you may have to interview a therapist. As I like to say, it's almost like dating, but getting someone that can help you, with your strong emotions or, your outbursts, whatever it is that you're experiencing. So it's really getting honest, and even pen to paper. I'm a firm advocate of putting down the phone, because I take notes in my phone too. I have some here, but at the same time, it's really pen to paper and writing it out and just getting honest with yourself.
Absolutely.
And I know you're big into journals and writing as well. So
I'm like, yes, I'm all about that. I love, probably one of my most favorite things is just sitting outside and journaling with nature. Like, that's where my mind is free. And honestly, like, that's where you get real with yourself. Like, especially when you don't have other things going on, your pen just gets flowing and your mind just gets going, and then you don't know what comes on the paper.
Yeah, absolutely. We have people who, and there's so many of us, who we show up so much stronger for other people in our lives, but we don't show up for ourselves. So standard can be, and I relate, a lot of what I mentioned will be about my daughters, because I was a stay-at-home mom for many years. So I actually had to alter my standards and my ways based off, because I was giving anything and everything to them, and anything and everything to my husband. It was even to a point where I gave up on myself and my goals at one point when I was just 30 years old, because I said, my better years are behind me. I need to focus on them now. So I even just set aside my dreams and my goals, and I completely lived for other people, and I was a people pleaser. So learning how to now say, no, what is it that I need on a daily basis to feel good? Rather it's making sure that we go to the gym to exercise. And if you can't get there, turning on a YouTube video to exercise so you can feel good in your body to achieve whatever it is that we're trying to achieve. So I know you do a lot of hormone talk and a lot of talk about and assistance with helping women to maximize their health. And a lot of times it starts with just making those firm decisions that get a piece of the pie. I get a big slice of my time.
Right.
I matter.
Absolutely.
It's not for everyone else.
Right.
And you can't be a strong vessel if you're falling apart and living on fumes.
Absolutely. Like, if you're not filling your cup, you can't fill anybody else's cup. Even though you can try, but then you're just pouring more and more out of you, and eventually it's going to catch up to you.
Yeah.
So, what does your decision process kind of look like? Like, if you have to make a big decision, is there a series that you go through, like, okay, pros and cons list? Like, do you do pros and cons list? Do you journal right away? Kind of take us through what that looks like for you.
So with writing, I am a firm believer in clearly knowing what it is that you're moving towards in your life, because if not, and that's on any given day, because if not, you'll be pulled in so many directions. Right. So I believe in being strongly spiritually aligned. So whatever that looks like for you, I'm very, very spiritual, not very religious, but very spiritual. So for me, that looks like taking time to sit down with God, to meditate, to write out my goals. Because if your goals are written out and everything is clear, and if you're in alignment with Spirit, God, your higher power, it makes it harder for you to detour and go off into the woods.
Right.
And also, when choices come about in your life, it makes it hard to detour too, because I teach people to listen to their body. So if someone asks you to do something, for example, I was presented with an offer and a business opportunity the other day, and the individual that I was working with, it just didn't feel good spiritually. It didn't feel like it was in alignment. It looks like a beautiful opportunity on paper, but because I have my goals written out, it's easy for me to assess in my body how the opportunity feels, and also to look back at my notes and my goals and say, does this fit in with the trajectory of where I am working on going?
Right.
So, for example, I know you have your nutrition shop, your lovely shop. If someone came to you right now and said, Stephanie, I have this fantastic opportunity to sell brand new tires that no one has had before, experienced, or seen. Their mountain tires. You can make this amount of dollars. You can make. It may be a little hard to gear you off into the woods and go in that direction. So my first process is consulting with my goals and God and seeing how it feels and sitting down in meditation and prayer. That's step number one. Actually looking, does this fit in? Wow. And that's the first area of screening things out for me.
Yeah. No, that's really good. And, you have so much clarity. Like, I feel like everybody after listening to this just wants to sit down and like get so clear. But for me, it's honestly like sometimes it's hard to get really clear. So how do you get so clear on your goals? Especially at my age, like I feel like I still want to do everything and anything. And I feel like we really relate on that aspect. But how do you get so clear to know, like, okay, this is exactly what I want? And I feel like it can always change too, but how do you really set those goals for yourself?
Yeah, so it's a very holistic experience for me. And I don't know if you've ever watched the original movie, The Karate Kid. It's a really old movie.
Yeah.
And I know, like, at one point, Mr. Miyagi, the coach, remember, he would have, like, Daniel, he called him Daniel's son, he would have him waxing and washing windows, and he was doing all types of things. And he kept saying, what does this have to do with fighting? I want to learn how to get the bullies off of me. I want to learn. What we learned was it was a process. When he was washing windows and cleaning and doing things in a very orderly fashion, he was learning discipline. And so in my life, that looks like discipline is how you do the small things. It's also how you do the big things. So I look at everything in my life. For clarity, I have to make sure that I'm eating right and taking care of my body. So it's very holistic, right? It's window washing. What does this have to do with my goals? If you're eating right, your hormones are balanced, you're feeling good in your body, you're well rested, it's easier for your, and I study some neuroscience and epigenetics too, but I'll keep it very simple. It's easier for your brain to actually fire and wire properly. A lot of us, it's hard to get clear because we're walking around in a fog because of the improper foods and nutrition that we're taking, or we're not rested properly, and we don't realize that our body is such a fantastic vessel that if it's off, and your body is struggling to heal, or is highly inflamed, or you're drinking and eating fast foods, and I'm not saying don't drink, but I'm saying things that if you have too many things that are assaulting the body at one time, it's hard for the body to focus on greatness and feel good, because we can be saying, oh, let's get up, I'm going to take over the world, but the body is like, I can't even get out of bed.
Right.
So that's step number one. And then also meditation and prayer. When you sit down in meditation and prayer, I like to say prayer is like talking to God. The meditation is like listening to God. So I actually do both. So after praying for clarity, and don't forget, we can pray for anything. I pray for clarity. I pray for increase. And the meditation is sitting down, deep breathing, and actually listening and allowing messages to come in that we may miss if we're moving too fast. Hence being the sloth and being able to slow down, right? And watch the grass grow. Because a lot of us, we aren't sitting down and being still enough. I had a client that I was working with. She was a fascinating young woman. She was so skilled and she had so many different talents. But it was almost like every shiny object that passed by. One day she's, on Clubhouse, and another day she's going back to Facebook, then another day she's here, she's there, and not knocking. And she knows that I share that story. But when you're pulled in so many directions, again, that's not operating on the clarity. That's just operating out of the next shiny thing passing by. So again, it's number one is taking care of your body so that you can be clear. Your brain is actually firing and wiring properly, and you can process. The other part is, again, sitting still and listening. And then it's, again, the writing. And it's consulting with yourself and giving yourself permission to not get it right and not be perfect. So if you do endeavor on one path and you're working in one arena and you decide that you want to pivot, if you do, it's okay. If you pivot and it didn't work out and you go back, there is no perfect script. There is no perfect plan in life. So you do your best as possible to be on track and on path, and give yourself forgiveness if you get off. Right, get back on.
Right. That's really, really good. Yeah. That, I love the part where you said like prayer and meditation. Because we can pray, and we can pray, but if we're not listening to what God is trying to tell us, then we're going to miss out on what he's trying to tell us. So I really like that part of it.
And Stephanie, it's really, when I said I'm very spiritual, not really,